What's up, you guys? Henry Gracie and Brian Ortega here in Norfolk, Virginia for our annual GST, Gracie Survival Tactics Level 2 course with law enforcement professionals from all over Virginia and around the country. There should be more people here from the UK because as you guys saw, a video recently surfaced on the internet and went viral in which a man with superhuman strength, they quoted it, which was really just a normal big guy, basically got a hold of these officers. There was a situation where the officers were trying to apprehend this subject, trying to arrest him. They get into a scuffle on their feet, crazy tackle attempt on their feet, 2 officers against 1 suspect. He takes one guy down, other officer jumps on, it's a madhouse, loses her balance, gets thrown underneath. The officer both officers ended up beneath the subject, double chokehold with what is essentially a double mount, you guys. It was a crazy video. If you haven't seen it, here it is. I always say this, an officer with no training is an accident waiting to happen. When officers have very little training and capabilities for dealing with these type of situations, one of 2 things happens. People get killed prematurely, or 2 officers get chokehold and double mounted by suspects around the world. It's one or the other. Either they use too much force or they don't have enough strategy to overcome the situation, and we end up with what the situation that we saw in the UK. Both situations are unacceptable, and we want to demonstrate a situation right now that illustrates how we would go about dealing with the 2-on-1 situation, and then we'll break it down, okay? So, this guy, shaved head, big guy, attitude, walks around like a crazy guy, punches old ladies, robs banks, sells drugs, convicted of many crimes, and we see him on the street. Sir, lay on the ground, sir. No. On the ground, sir. I'm not going. I'm not going. Ground, stay away from me. Stay away. Stay away. Get off.
Ryan, switch sides, please.
Get off.
Come with me, champ. Come with me, champ.
Get off.
Let me know when you're ready.
Get off.
Ready.
I'm not going.
Let me know when you're ready.
I'm not going. I'm not going.
Stay.
Stop. You got him?
Got him.
Chilling.
Take me. You never go take me. You never go take me.
I'm clear. I'm clear. I'm clear. Go north.
Never go.
Perfect.
Sir.
Perfect.
Give me your hands, please.
Perfect.
Hands, please.
Hands are out. Hands are out. Good.
Ready.
Cuff 1, cuff 2, and we're out. Luckily, Rob is not a real bad guy. He's an actual officer, and we're appreciative of his volunteering. But what's the difference here, my friends? Let's get back up. Let's talk. Here was the main thing we saw in the video. Sure, you're in this. In the video that we saw in the UK, the biggest problem was, situation happened, the male officer grabs the guy and is scuffling. The female officer also grabs the guy, and now we have a situation where we're running around town with 2 officers against a larger suspect who's obviously have great balance and great power and athleticism, and as long as his feet are under him, he's not going down. Just a scuffle, and before you know it, he takes me down, boom, and then when he's mounted here, the lady jumps on him, on his back, loses her balance, and we end up in the double chokehold situation. And here, he's like reprimanding these officers for trying to arrest him. They're saying, get off of me. We don't know the backstory. We just know that this is totally unacceptable in law enforcement. Okay, now what we're very lucky of is that because of the danger of the situation, 1 officer did not draw their gun and shoot. That would be the only thing that was worse than what we saw, is if they would have killed this guy because of the threat scenario. Luckily, he got up and got away, considering the circumstances, and no one got killed, and that was the end of that. But it was very embarrassing and very unfortunate. Okay, so Rob, come back in. So here's the mindset. When 2 officers engage a subject, It doesn't matter who engages first. We have a contact officer and what we call a cover officer coming in at an angle. Whoever has a better angle will go upper body. If I want to engage here, great. If Brian wants to engage there, engage, control, great. But the second officer, only thing that matters is binding the knees together. So come low, control, and we get them down. Now at this point, the key is that we end up on the same side of the suspect. Notice I don't move while Brian's moving. You guys, when I hold, Brian moves. When Brian holds, I move. Never both officers moving at the same time. Control the situation and buy time for your fellow officer. Communication is key. You got him?
Got him.
I'm gonna lace up the legs. Here we go, stand by. Oh, under, over, under, under. Shoulder in the hip, turn him to his belly. Boom. From here, you got him? I don't move until Brian's stable. Stand by. When Brian's stable, that's when I step over, inverted, single leg toe hold. Pry the leg up, hand near the hip, step over, trap it near my hip. Now I have 2 free hands and a trapped suspect. Get off me, please. Sit up, Rob. He's not getting up. He's not getting up. Not with the pressure, not with the twist, and not with the hyperflexion of the knee. I got him trapped right here. At this point, there are many different ways that Brian can free his arm. One of which, come around, hold on, go all the way around the other side, please. Brian, come on this side, credit card this arm. One of which, he can be to the side, check the hip, control the inside shoulder, bring his knee inside, look, boom, scoop the hand in, switch his head. Now with the shoulder pry, walk north, pry the arm out, put it on the back, I'll keep this one. And then from here, we can hammer lock it and ask for the other arm. He bring it back, sir, bring it back. And look, I can assist him because we're facing one another in this situation. Now, what's the secret? First officer always goes high. Second officer always binds the knees, gently and controllingly, so that they take the person down with the least amount of force necessary. The other situation where the officer was down, you're the male officer, lay down please, suspect mounted him, and was punching him in the face. When the female officer came in and just jumps on the guy, she's leaving herself exposed to be thrown. So instead, the female officer has to understand that with her minimal size and strength over the larger suspect, she can't just jump on him, piggyback, and risk getting thrown off and losing her balance. Instead, she has to apply the leverage, he or she has to apply the leverage of their whole body against one appendage here with maximum effectiveness. Come in, we're gonna hook one arm, stay mounted, stay mounted. Come around 9 o'clock, boom, and we're off. And then from here, get up, sir. Now he gets up, and now we have our situation again. He can bind the legs, or get help, or whatever the situation is, we can go right back into the 2-on-1 arrest procedure, if that's the case. Or we can disengage, whatever we want. What's the moral of the story? 2 officers with well-coordinated efforts saves energy, saves embarrassment, saves lives. Because the deadly force threshold is essentially elevated, right? In other words, more violence is necessary to require deadly force when you're dealing with a trained officer. An untrained officer is more likely to quickly resort to deadly force prematurely and unnecessarily when they don't have the training. In other words, it's all or nothing. So I see a police officer and I say, hey, you should learn some Jiu-Jitsu, you should learn some techniques, some defensive tactics so that you can be more effective with what you learn and what you know and carry out your job and save lives. And they said, no, I got a gun, I got a taser, I don't need that. Obviously, the fewer tools you have, the quicker you are to escalate force. It's very simple. Jiu-Jitsu for law enforcement, save lives. People are here, people are learning all over the world. The problem is there's so many police departments that are stuck in 1970s, 1980s with how they train defensive tactics, and they're not getting with the program. And you know what doesn't help the case is that mixed martial arts is growing at an explosive rate. People are learning just by watching TV, and yet police departments are sitting down doing nothing about it, not advancing their training to meet the growing knowledge base of the general public. The threat is growing, the threat is getting smarter, and police departments are sitting still. So I hope that just seeing a little bit of how Jiu-Jitsu can be applied in this situation can help influence some people to make the decision, and especially the defensive tactics instructors out there at different departments, which are all in this room right here with us from the state of Virginia and other surrounding states. You gotta make moves, you guys. You gotta make it happen. At the end of the day, you know, our whole and people will say this, we don't want to teach Jiu-Jitsu to law enforcement because law enforcement should not be getting into ground fights. Right? Law enforcement should not be getting into ground fights.
Shouldn't be getting tackled anyway.
Shouldn't be getting tackled, right? To ask those officers in the UK if they intentionally got into that ground fight. No. And what was even worse is if it was one officer, luckily there was 2, even though they still got both choked, if it was just one officer who got tackled against their will onto the ground, then what? What preparation is going to prepare them to escape a ground fight that they don't know how to deal with? It's very simple. If you want to learn how to get out of a pool, who should teach you how to get out of a swimming pool? A swimmer. So who's the best people to teach you how to get out of a ground fight? Ground fighters. And you can't get out of a ground fight that you don't understand. So you panic, you waste energy. Ultimately, you either shoot, get shot, or get knocked out, which is unacceptable in any case, especially in law enforcement. Okay? Anything else for our friends, Brian? Done. You guys, GST truth number 1. The bad guy always has the ambush advantage. Prepare for that. GST truth number 2. Never grapple with the suspect or enemy by choice, but when it happens, know how to get in and know how to get out as efficiently as possible. And rule number 3, in a street fight, there is no tap out. It ends in handcuffs or it doesn't matter.